Hey, welcome to ACC&D's interview with an expert, where we invite industry experts to increase awareness and education regarding non-surgical fertility control and how they use it. Today we have Dr. Robert Bob Weedon, who is a high-quality, high-volume spay-neuter veterinary surgeon based in Florida. He's been a very important part of our board for over 18 years. Okay, let's get started. Bob, how did you get involved with ACC&D, and why is our work compelling to you?
Well, Ruby, I first became aware of ACC&D in June of 2008. I was at the NACA conference in Spokane, Washington, where I met the former president, Joyce Briggs, who was exhibiting there. As a spay-neuter surgeon, I had never heard of the concept of a non-surgical sterilant and was intrigued by the idea. Throughout the conference, I kept coming back to her booth to ask questions. I looked at her list of board members, and at that time, only Linda Rhodes was a veterinarian on the board. And I remarked to Joyce that there was only one vet and nobody with any public health experience or credentials.
Yeah.
A week later, Joyce called me and invited me to join the ACC&D board. I've been a board member ever since for 18 years. That's important because I firmly believe that animal population control, be it surgical or non-surgical, is a public health initiative. Why? Because unchecked populations of dogs and cats can spread zoonotic diseases,
Mhm.
think rabies, as well as other public health problems such as dog bites and zoonotic parasitic diseases. At the time I joined the ACC&D board, I was a volunteer for the Global Alliance for Rabies Control, and later on took a position with them as their veterinary outreach coordinator. I was also a spay-neuter surgeon. My two professional passions are rabies prevention and animal population control. That continues today as I advocate for the acronym TNVR, Trap, Neuter, Vaccinate, Return, preferentially over TNR, Trap, Neuter, Return, because in doing so, we highlight the rabies vaccination aspect of these programs. By doing so, we create a barrier to rabies between wildlife and domestic pets and people. And this engages a whole new set of stakeholders, the public health community, in support of our programs. So my work with ACC&D embodies my two professional passions, rabies prevention and animal population control, as it has for the past 18 years.
Wow. I just think about that. That's 20 years. And in those 20 years, you've helped our micro needle tattoo project. Can you tell us more about that, and what is your role in advancing that?
Yeah, I believe that the population of animals in the U.S. that will benefit most from the development of a non-surgical sterilant is free roaming and feral cats, known more broadly as community cats. Imagine how many more cats we could sterilize in a day if we didn't have to do surgery on them. However, one of the unintended consequences of developing a non-surgical sterilant is that since anesthesia won't be required, then we will no longer be able to tip the ear of a sterilized feral cat, thereby precluding the ability to provide the international standard for identifying a sterilized feral cat. ACC&D recognized this early on and developed a team of individuals to look at ways to identify these cats as having been sterilized. We went through various technologies and settled on the microneedle patch tattoo. This is essentially painless and appears to be permanent. At least tattoos applied 6 years ago in our initial testing are still visible. Now, microneedle patch tattoos are by no means perfect. They're not as readily visible, especially from a distance, as a tipped ear. It may be that the cat would have to be trapped in order to get a good look at the tattooed ear, although sometimes tipped ears aren't readily visible until a cat is trapped either. While relatively simple to apply, they will still require some degree of chemical restraint, particularly in a feral cat. Nevertheless, It should be noted that these cats may require sedation for the injection of a non-surgical sterilant, so that really isn't a big issue. They're sedatives that can be readily reversed so that the cat can be released essentially immediately. My role has been to apply the microneedle patch tattoos and evaluate their ease of application, as well as to follow the durability and visibility of the tattoos. As a matter of fact, on the ACC&D marking project page, the dog pictured with a green tattoo in his ear is my dog Buddy, who died in 2024.
Hmm.
That tattoo was applied in 2020, and the picture was taken shortly before Buddy's death 4 years later. I'm proud that ACC&D chose to use that image because, in my mind, Buddy's legacy lives on. As an offshoot of this project, we've also been testing this technology for use in abdominal tattoos in animals that are currently surgically sterilized in order to hopefully increase the number of private practitioners who tattoo sterilized animals, which reportedly is only around 5%.
Wow.
The most frequently cited reason for not tattooing is the mess associated with it. ACC&D's system prevents that mess, so we will see if, when it becomes commercially available, private practitioners jump on the tattoo bandwagon.
Yeah. I love that photo of Buddy on the website. People can go to that if they go to our website and go to Marking Project. I've used it for a few designs for social media, and he's a great ambassador, and his legacy continues to live on. Speaking about
Exactly.
legacies, can you tell us a little bit about your work with the United Spay Alliance?
Yeah, my work with the United Spay Alliance revolves again around my two professional passions, rabies prevention and animal population control. Over the past decade, we've seen a shift from animal welfare funders away from spay-neuter and towards access to care. I firmly believe that spay-neuter is an essential element of access to care. So many of the animals that I sterilize on a daily basis have never been to a veterinarian. This gives us the opportunity to get these pets and their owners started on a lifetime of wellness and prevention. However, there's a very real access to care issue in the veterinary profession, particularly with respect to spay neuter. There just aren't enough high quality, high volume spay neuter veterinarians trained to staff the low cost clinics needed to sterilize all the animals waiting for. The United Spay Alliance is addressing this issue with a task force on the manpower shortage in veterinary medicine, of which I am a part. And as I previously mentioned, animal sterilization is a public health issue, particularly with respect to rabies prevention. The United Spay Alliance recognizes this as well and recently launched their No Babies, No Rabies, How Spay Neuter Protects Public Health campaign, which recognizes the importance of animal sterilization in rabies prevention. Conversely, as I've already mentioned, USA recognizes the importance of rabies prevention in animal population control programs. Think community cats and TNVR programs. So both organizations, ACC&D and USA, are important to me in pursuit of my professional passions, animal population control and rabies prevention.
Yeah, I've seen them on their LinkedIn, their recent campaigns, and I think they're fantastic and they're very well designed. And I really wish people would go to the United Spay Alliance and check them out. And before we forget, we learned that you have a recent publication. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think honestly, this is my greatest professional achievement. It was the publication of an article entitled Response to Rabies Vaccine in Kittens Under 12 Weeks of Age in the Journal of Shelter Medicine and Community Animal Health in October 2025. Why is that? Well, 12 weeks is the minimum label age for rabies vaccination in dogs and cats. When TNVR programs trap kittens less than 12 weeks of age, ideally they would be diverted to foster care for socialization and eventual adoption. However, if organizational resources don't exist to support that, then they're vaccinated and returned to their colony. Critics of TNVR have said that there's no evidence that the practice is effective. Well, you know what? They were right. Until now, our pilot study, all 10 kittens less than 12 weeks of age had no detectable rabies antibodies on day zero. They were sterilized, vaccinated for rabies, and 28 days later, follow-up rabies titers were all well above the level deemed protective, demonstrating the effectiveness of vaccinating these kittens if they cannot be diverted to foster care for socialization and eventual adoption. This is the first peer-reviewed evidence that the practice is effective, and I'm very proud of that.
You should be very proud of it, and I can't wait to for more people to read the publication, which we'll be linking in the post about your interview. Okay, Bob, that's the end of our interview. Thank you so very much for your time and all that you do, especially with TNVR and our micro needle tattoo project. We look forward to our next interview with an expert in September, and thank you so very much.